It began with the whisper of turning pages, ancient parchment brushed by candlelight, hidden deep within stone walls where the outside world rarely intruded. For centuries, the Benedictine Black Monks lived behind cloistered arches, wrapped in silence and shadows. Their reputation was built not only on devotion and discipline, but on something far more enticing to the imagination: the belief that they guarded knowledge the world had forgotten, secrets too dangerous or sacred to be spoken aloud. While most monks pursued quiet scholarship, legends turned them into something more: protectors of forbidden texts, custodians of wisdom from civilizations long buried beneath the dust of time. In the medieval world, knowledge was power, and power often demanded secrecy. The monasteries of the Black Monks stood isolated at the edges of kingdoms, on wind-swept hills, in deep forests, beside ancient Roman ruins, or atop cliffs where waves crashed like drums against the stone. To the common people, these places seemed otherworldly, where chanting echoed through corridors at dawn and figures in black robes drifted like shadows between archways. A single torch or stained glass glow was often the only sign of life within their towering walls. But what truly set them apart was their library. The Benedictine order became famous for preserving manuscripts that would have otherwise vanished from history. At a time when war, plague, and ignorance swept across Europe, these monks copied books by hand, line after line, symbol after symbol, ensuring that works of philosophy, astronomy, medicine, and theology survived. Their scriptoria, quiet rooms filled with desks, inks, and pigments, were hallowed spaces where the light of civilization continued to flicker. Yet rumors persisted that not all the texts they kept were meant for scholarly study. Some whispered that the Black Monks stored books too dangerous for public eyes: grimoires from pagan priests, strange scrolls brought by travelers from the East, Roman works banned by the Church, and tablets describing rituals older than Christianity itself. Whether these stories were truth or superstition mattered little. They gave the Benedictines a mysterious, almost mythical aura. Inside their monastic libraries, towering shelves held fragile vellum coated with arcane diagrams, strange astronomical charts, and forgotten alphabets. Some manuscripts, according to legend, were kept locked in iron-bound chests and shown only to selected monks who had taken solemn vows never to reveal what they saw. The idea of forbidden knowledge fascinated medieval minds, and so the Black Monks became the subject of stories that blended awe and fear. Life within the monastery followed a strict rhythm. The Benedictine rule emphasized prayer, work, and obedience. Days were divided into holy hours: matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, and compline. The monks awakened long before dawn to chant psalms to a cold, star-washed sky. After their prayers, they worked, copying manuscripts, tending gardens, brewing medicinal tinctures, or maintaining the monastery's self-sustaining world. Their black robes, simple yet solemn, gave rise to the name Black Monks. These garments symbolized humility and detachment from earthly desires, but outsiders saw them quite differently. To villagers who rarely engaged with the educated elite, the sight of hooded figures moving silently through cloisters was eerie, almost supernatural. This silence fed rumors. Some believed the monks hid secret rites carried over from early Christian mystics, or even older pre-Christian rites absorbed into the order. The stillness of monastic life was misinterpreted as secrecy. Discipline was misunderstood as occult practice. It was easier to imagine that the Black Monks' silence concealed dark wisdom than to accept the truth. They were simply scholars in a violent world. One of the most enduring legends spoke of the Codex Obscurus, a book supposedly penned in a forgotten language, wrapped in black leather, and said to contain rituals for summoning ancient spirits. Another tale described scrolls from Alexandria, the last remnants of the great library saved by wandering monks and hidden in the Benedictine vaults. There were even rumors of Babylonian tablets whispering secrets of celestial gods. In reality, most monasteries kept nothing more sinister than medical treatises, philosophical commentaries, and theological arguments. But medieval Europe was a place of superstition. Anything outside the common understanding became suspicious, and the Black Monks' vast libraries of strange symbols, odd diagrams, and foreign languages were fertile ground for the imagination. Visitors who glimpsed the scriptorium often returned with exaggerated tales. A monk copying a herbal illustration became a sorcerer drawing magical plants. A scholar translating Greek texts became a necromancer interpreting forbidden incantations. Every shadow in the monastery seemed to hide something profound and unsettling. The architecture of Benedictine monasteries also contributed to their mystery. Built with thick stone walls, narrow windows, and labyrinthine hallways, these structures were designed for isolation and protection. But in the eyes of outsiders, they looked like fortresses guarding secrets. The library, often located in the monastery's most secure wing, was sometimes protected by locked doors, torchlit corridors, and rules forbidding outsiders from entering. Monks believed knowledge was sacred and fragile. It had to be shielded from weather, war, and ignorance. But secrecy always invites speculation. Travelers claimed the monks hid magical chambers behind false walls, or that tunnels beneath the monastery led to crypts containing ancient relics. Archaeologists today know that many monasteries did have catacombs, storage areas, burial chambers, or wine cellars, but none contained the supernatural artifacts described in medieval folktales. Still, legends endure because they speak to a deeper truth. Monasteries were among the few places where the ancient world survived the Dark Ages. Throughout the Middle Ages, the Church monitored learning closely. Ideas deemed heretical could lead to trial, imprisonment, or even execution. As a result, scholars often worked cautiously, hiding manuscripts or protecting ideas considered controversial. Some monks may have indeed copied texts that were discouraged or banned, such as works from ancient Greek philosophers, scientific manuscripts challenging church teachings, mystical writings from early Christian sects, apocryphal gospels, astrological maps and star charts. To safeguard these works, monks may have concealed them deep within their libraries or disguised them within other manuscripts. Whether this was widespread practice or isolated to a few individuals remains uncertain, but the legends built upon such possibilities. What is known is this: the Benedictine monasteries became sanctuaries for knowledge, both acceptable and questionable. And knowledge that challenges authority always attracts myth. As centuries passed, the Benedictine Black Monks became the subject of superstition. In an era when the unknown was feared, scholars became sorcerers, and libraries became vaults of forbidden magic. Villagers shared stories around fires, describing monks who communicated with angels during illuminated manuscript sessions, discovered ancient spells while translating pagan texts, guarded relics left behind by early Druids or Roman priests, practiced astral studies that resembled occult astronomy. These tales grew not because the monks encouraged them, but because secrecy and silence are easy to misinterpret. When plague struck or famine spread, people sometimes blamed the monks, accusing them of hiding divine secrets or consorting with forces beyond mortal understanding. The truth was far simpler. The Benedictine Black Monks were among the few educated groups of the time. And education itself, strange symbols, measurements, medicines, was enough to stir fear in the medieval imagination. Despite centuries of legends, the real legacy of the Black Monks is extraordinary. Their dedication to preserving knowledge allowed countless works from antiquity to survive. Without their scriptoria and libraries, much of what we know today about ancient philosophy, science, medicine, and theology would have been lost forever. Yet the myth of the Benedictine Black Monks as guardians of forbidden knowledge continues to fascinate. Their dark robes, silent halls, and ancient manuscripts blend perfectly with the atmosphere of medieval mystery. Even now, when historians can explain their practices in rational terms, the stories persist, because the idea of hidden wisdom locked behind cloistered walls captures the human imagination. The Black Monks embody the strange boundary between myth and truth. They were peaceful scholars, yet portrayed as mystical sentinels. They preserved knowledge, yet became symbols of secrecy. They lived simple lives, yet were woven into the very fabric of medieval mystery. And in a way, the legends are not entirely wrong. For in those quiet halls, beneath candlelight and ink-stained hands, the Black Monks did guard a kind of magic, not supernatural but intellectual. A magic made of words, wisdom, and the fragile threads connecting the ancient world to the future.